comfortable and maintain the pressure inside the cabin. And then attached to that command module, the service module, this cylinder that contained the main rocket engine that they would get into and out of lunar orbit.
O motor do módulo de serviço era responsável por colocá-los na órbita lunar e, sobretudo, por tirá-los de órbita e mandá-los de volta à Terra. 3 dias após o lançamento, Collins ligou o motor e a propulsão de 9.500 quilos reduziu a velocidade da nave, fazendo com que entrasse em órbita lunar.
And the engine was designed beautifully with as much simplicity as possible. It was an engine that used the fuel that was called hypergolic. Hypergolic fuel is fuel that will ignite on contact, so you don't need an ignition system.
A Apollo 11 estava em órbita lunar. A viagem fora longa e eles se preparavam para prosseguir à fase seguinte da missão, tentar pousar na Lua. Mas pilotar os módulos de comando e lunar envolvia desafios jamais enfrentados por um piloto. Em uma época de computadores que ocupavam o espaço de uma sala, era preciso algo compacto e eficaz para guiar a nave espacial.
The guidance and navigation system was amazing, and today when I look back at it 35 years ago, it was even more amazing. It had all of 60,000 words in it. Today, if you don't have gigabytes of memory, you don't seem to be able to get along. The computer that landed in the landing module was built specifically one time for that mission.
Com cerca de 1 metro quadrado e pesando 35 quilos, era considerado compacto. O computador do módulo lunar era um prodígio da engenharia para a época. Outro idêntico guiava o módulo de comando.
The little handheld calculator that you could go in and buy at Walmart would be as powerful as the guidance computer we had on the landing vehicle.
Mas enquanto Armstrong e Aldrin preparavam o módulo lunar para pousar, o controle preocupava-se com um acontecimento inesperado que poderia causar grande impacto na missão.
So what you want?
Commander of the first moon landing?
9, 8, 7, 6. Anyone else see that?
It's the story of the mission and of the men that changed our world.
(20 de julho). A Apollo 11 estava na órbita da Lua há menos de um dia. Quando Armstrong e Aldrin preparavam o módulo lunar, submetendo-o a horas de testes, receberam notícias preocupantes da base. O controle da missão estava preocupado com um intruso no espaço. Os soviéticos haviam lançado uma sonda não tripulada na órbita lunar, coincidindo com a chegada da Apollo 11. Foram feitas tentativas de contato com os russos, mas ninguém sabia ao certo para que era a sonda ou se sua órbita colocaria a tripulação da Apollo 11 em perigo.
The Soviets were actually trying to pull off a sample return mission, a robotic sample return mission. It was called Luna 15, and it was supposed to land on the moon, collect a sample, and bring it back to Earth. It certainly didn't hurt that it would have upstaged Apollo 11, but it didn't. It crashed on the moon.
Com a ameaça soviética eliminada, Armstrong e Aldrin aguardavam o sinal verde de Houston para pousar. Eles seriam os primeiros a pousar na Lua, abortar o pouso ou morrer tentando. O módulo lunar foi a primeira espaçonave construída que jamais operaria na atmosfera.
Our design, of course, at that time was mainly driven by aeronautical engineers. The lunar module, of course, was not going to be constrained with aerodynamics. It was going to operate in the vacuum of space.
Mas para pousar na Lua e decolar, o módulo lunar precisava ser leve. Os módulos lunares anteriores eram muito pesados.
So they started throwing away all of the extra stuff. They took out the seats because the astronauts would only fly in 1/6 gravity or in weightlessness, and so they didn't need seats.
A tecnologia de redução de peso produziu um módulo lunar eficaz, mas sua estrutura era muito leve. Em vez de revestimento metálico, a maior parte do módulo inferior era revestida com filme de poliéster. Os astronautas passaram a chamá-la de espaçonave de papel.
Even the parts where there were metal, like the skin of the crew cabin, was just a fraction of an inch thick. So it was like a very taut aluminum balloon.
O projeto do módulo lunar fez os engenheiros superarem seus limites. Uma tarefa particularmente árdua foi projetar o motor do módulo de descida que os faria pousar na Lua. Era preciso ter propulsão variável para que eles pairassem e escolhessem o local de pouso.
So they developed this engine that could be throttled like a car. And if you look at the landing profile, you see that it starts out at 100% and then it throttles down partway through.
Também havia o motor de subida. Sua única função era retornar os dois homens à órbita. Mas se falhasse, eles estariam fadados a passar o resto de suas vidas na Lua.
The reliability of that one had to be perfect, because you're not leaving if that thing doesn't work. So the idea was in rocketry is simple means high reliability.
As únicas peças móveis eram duas válvulas. Se estivessem abertas, o módulo de subida voaria. Eram 16 horas na costa leste no dia 20 de julho. A missão estava com mais de 103 horas. A Águia estava pronta para pousar na Lua. Michael Collins, sozinho no módulo de comando, circulou a Lua em uma órbita diferente. Estava preparado tanto para uma tentativa de resgate, caso o pouso fosse abortado, quanto para comemorar se tivesse sucesso. As duas naves estavam atrás da Lua e sem comunicação com a Terra. Na base em Houston, Gene Kranz comandava o pouso. Com a interferência, aguardando a Águia sair de trás da Lua, dirigiu-se pela última vez à equipe.
So I called my controllers onto this loop for a very personal conversation, because this was very emotional for me. Emotional moment, and I really wanted to tell my team how much I believed in them, and what I thought of them, and what I felt they were capable of. And that even though this is something that had never been done before, I believe that we were the right team at the right place. And this day we would make it happen. And from that moment forward, no controller would enter or leave the room until one of three things had happened. We would either land on the moon, we would crash attempting to land, or we would abort. And the final two outcomes were not good.
A comunicação com o módulo lunar havia sido restituída, porém havia interferência. Gene Kranz ficou apreensivo.
So it's purely my decision as to how much information is enough. Well, the kind of information you're looking for is telemetry information and voice information. So this is now going through my mind, do I have enough to continue? And the answer was yes.
Okay, retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. GNC, go. Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, word, go to continue PDI.
So I gave the crew the go for power descent.
You go to continue power descent. You're a go to continue power descent.
The crew acknowledged their go, and we immediately lost communications again.
Apesar dos problemas, o motor de pouso foi ligado no tempo previsto e a Águia iniciou o procedimento de descida na Lua.
Of course, we were going engine first, face down, so that we could see the landmarks moving from the bottom of the window up to the top of the window, and we could make time and landmark checks.
We had very crude instrumentation and capability measuring at that time, but it was good enough to get the crew started down towards the surface of the moon. But as they got closer to the surface, we had to bring in the landing radar so it could update the crew's knowledge of the actual altitude.
À medida que eles desciam, a concentração de Armstrong voltou-se para a superfície da Lua. Aldrin monitorava os instrumentos do módulo lunar, transmitindo informação para Houston. Mas, de repente, começaram os problemas.
That's affirmative. Program alarm. 1202. 1202.
A 10.200 metros de altitude, estavam com problemas sérios. O computador emitia um alerta de sobrecarga e eles estavam a apenas 6 minutos do solo.
And the computer is throwing out all these alarms and saying, I've got too much to do, and if you don't lighten my workload, I'm just going to give up.
When they did come on, we couldn't look it up in the book to see what the problem was, because we were watching where we were going, calling out altitude rate.
You're not exactly sure which path to take. Do we keep working for the landing radar thing, or do we start addressing this question of the computer program alarm?
It was enough to interrupt our train of thought and get us wondering, when's the next one going to come on?
Right in the middle of landing, it was almost as dangerous to try and abort with a bad computer as it was to carry on with the landing.
Mas a Lua continuava se aproximando e os alertas não cessavam.
Go for landing, 3,000 feet. Time alarm. 1201. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm.
O alerta 1201 era mais urgente que o 1202 e significava que o computador podia desligar completamente. Aldrin seguia transmitindo os dados para Armstrong. Precisavam de um lugar para pousar. Estavam a 600 metros de distância e a 2 minutos das pedras.
As I was looking at my trajectory plot, Neil leveled off at about 400 feet and was whizzing across the surface, and it was far from what we'd trained for and seen in the simulation.
Neil is looking out the window and he sees this enormous crater. This is a crater the size of a football field with boulders around it that are as big as small cars, you know.
We continue on down the surface. We should have been on the surface by about 10 minutes, and now, as a result of this trajectory problem we had, we're further downrange from our landing site.
Enquanto se aproximavam da superfície lunar, Armstrong preparou-se para assumir o controle do computador em pane.
Now we get to about 500 feet and we take over manual control, and at this time I think Neil could really see that it was going where he didn't want it to go.
Estavam se aproximando da curva da morte. Se passassem desse ponto, seria tarde demais para abortar.
That if you ever go below the dead man's curve, you just don't have enough power to go back up and do an abort before you had crashed.
O combustível estava ficando excessivamente baixo. Houston deu prazo de 60 segundos para abortar o pouso.
Forward. 60 seconds.
And we did hear the call of 60 seconds, and a low-level light came on. That, I'm sure, caused concern in the control center. They normally expected us to land with about 2 minutes of fuel left, and here we were down and still 100 feet above the surface at 60 seconds.
But when I called 1 minute, they were starting down, and then I called 30 seconds, and I was really getting a little anxious at this point.
At about that time, you really start to suck air, and I'm seriously thinking now we have this land abort decision that the crew is faced with. Are they going to have sufficient fuel to land on the moon, or are they going to have to board very close to the lunar surface, which is extremely difficult and extremely risky?
30 seconds. Forward.
When it got down to 30 seconds, we were about 10 feet or less, and I could see that they were in the final phases. A little bit of drifting, and I could sneak a look out, because at that point I don't think Neil cared what the numbers were. He was looking at the outside.
Contact light. We copy you down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
O pouso se deu às 16 horas e 18 minutos, horário da costa leste. Ficaram a 6,5 km do alvo. O combustível dava só para mais 17 segundos.
It took us a couple seconds to really realize that we had made it. And then the people in the viewing room start cheering and clapping and stomping their feet. And I'm so tied up emotionally at this time that I literally cannot speak, and I got to get my team back on track. And I wrap my arm on the console and break my pencil, and finally get back on track and call my controllers to attention. Say, okay, all you flight controllers, settle down. Okay, let's get back on with it.
A Apollo 11 estava na Lua, mas abaixo dos 2 astronautas e do módulo lunar surgira um defeito na etapa de descida que podia causar uma explosão catastrófica na espaçonave.
Is it what you want?
Commander of the first moon landing?
9, 8, 7, 6.
Anyone else see that?
It's the story of the mission and of the men that changed our world.
O módulo lunar Águia estava na Lua há 1 hora e Armstrong e Aldrin completavam os testes pós-pouso. Enquanto isso, um desastre se formava sob seus pés na etapa de descida.
The coal on the moon permeated the fuel line and caused a blockage in the fuel line, which was immediately reported back by telemetry to Mission Control in Houston. That gave us cause for alarm.
A tubulação que fornecia combustível para o motor de descida estava entupida, causando aumento de pressão. Se não desentupisse sozinha, Kranz teria que ordenar abortar a descida na Lua e retornar à órbita.
There was, for the few seconds that this was going on, some thought given to aborting the exploration of the moon and to initiate the launch sequence right away. However, the heat that came out of the engine melted the ice that had formed in the line, and the problem went away.
Desastre evitado, Armstrong e Aldrin preparavam-se para explorar a Lua. 6 horas após o pouso, os 2 astronautas estavam prontos para sair do módulo lunar. Em suas roupas lunares, deixaram entrar ar dentro da cápsula para poderem abrir a porta.
When we're all ready and depressurized, we're looking at the gauge as we turned the valve, I think, on the handle to vent the pressure 4 or 5 pounds per square inch, and it went down to the point where it was almost zero fairly quickly. We thought, well, let's give it a try. We tried to pull the door open, it wouldn't come open. We thought, well, I wonder if we're going to get out or not. And it took an abnormal time for it to finally get to a point where we could pull on a fairly flimsy door, and you don't want to rupture that door and leave yourself in a vacuum for the entire rest of the mission.
Aldrin bateu na guarnição da porta e ela finalmente se abriu. Sob orientação do colega, Armstrong saiu da cabine. Após descer a estreita escada com cautela, Armstrong pisou no apoio de pé. Era hora de fazer história.
I'm at the foot of the ladder. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Eram 22 horas e 56 minutos na costa leste. Enquanto Aldrin preparava-se para sair, Armstrong fazia suas primeiras observações da superfície lunar.
Surface is fine and powdery. I can kick it up loosely with my toe. I only go in a small fraction of an inch, maybe an eighth of an inch, but I can see it has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here.
Meia hora depois, Aldrin também saiu do módulo lunar, descendo pela escada.
There you got it. That's a good step. Yep. About a 3-footer.
Quando Aldrin pisou no apoio de pé, virou-se para ver a vista e ficou maravilhado.
Magnificent desolation.
The visibility was so clear, especially looking down sun. If you look down at the surface, you could clearly see a glow around the shadow of your head. Even in shadows where the sun didn't reach, you could see into the shadows reasonably well. Looking out on the horizon, it was so clear, you could see the moon curve away. Estimating distance was kind of difficult because you don't know exactly how far away it's going to curve, and the clarity is so distinct.
Os exploradores testaram sua mobilidade e fincaram a bandeira americana.
A lot of people think because you have 1/6 gravity that you ought to be able to jump 6 times higher. Wrong. You can jump to the degree that you can accelerate your mass from a standing still movement. As soon as your feet leave the ground, you're done. You can't do anything more. So it's the rapidity of that motion. And is that hampered by the stiffness of the suit? Yes, it is.
Apesar das roupas volumosas, os astronautas iniciaram outras tarefas. Uma delas era montar uma estação científica, bem menor do que as que seriam montadas em missões posteriores.
They created something called ESEP, which stood for Early Apollo Scientific Experiments Package. And it consisted basically of a seismometer that would detect moonquakes. And it was powered by solar panels. and a reflector called a laser ranging retroreflector.
A estação científica ficaria na Lua e enviaria informações durante 5 semanas. O refletor a laser permitiria aos astrônomos medir a distância entre a Terra e a Lua com precisão de centímetros. Funciona até hoje. Após 2 horas e 31 minutos, a caminhada na Lua terminou e os primeiros homens a pisar em outro mundo pegaram as últimas amostras para os geólogos na Terra.
We were really not geologists. We were test pilots, fighter pilots in an unknown environment trying to do the best that we could. And it was up to a mix of later talents so that we would get the most scientific benefit out of the achievement of, as the President said, landing a man on the moon and bringing him back safely.
Após 1 hora, estavam de volta ao módulo lunar, preparando-se para partir da Lua. Pairava no ar a maior ameaça da missão. Para voltar, o motor de subida do módulo lunar precisava ligar. Era mais uma tecnologia que nunca fora testada na Lua. E para complicar ainda mais, ao sair da cabine, os astronautas haviam quebrado o disjuntor do motor de subida.
Is it what you want?
Commander of the first moon landing?
Armstrong e Aldrin estiveram na Lua durante 21 horas e exploraram fora do módulo lunar durante 2 horas e meia. Exaustos, queriam voltar para casa. Mas antes, precisavam descobrir um modo de ligar o motor de subida. Os engenheiros se reuniram, dando ideias para contornar a quebra do disjuntor. Finalmente, uma solução foi encontrada. O curso do disjuntor foi redirecionado por Armstrong. Minutos depois, ele ligou o disjuntor da ignição alternada. O mecanismo de lançamento foi ativado abaixo deles.
Now this sequence is completely automatic. Once they initiate the firing sequence, all of the things that have to happen occur automatically. One of the big things that happens is that a guillotine severs the wires and all the connections that exist between the ascent and the descent stage. It also sends a command to the ascent engine to fire.
A decolagem da Lua ocorreu após 124 horas e 22 minutos transcorridos da missão. O módulo lunar subiu em trajetória irregular devido aos tanques esvaziarem em velocidades diferentes por levarem também combustíveis de diferentes densidades.
Since the center of gravity moves in the ascent on the lunar module, in order to keep from firing thrusters kind of all the time, it wallows off of attitude and then you thrust it back on. It does this in a little bit in pitch and a little bit in roll. Then it'll do it more in roll and a little bit less in pitch. So it's really kind of a lazy maneuver, and you're along for the ride.
À medida que as duas naves se aproximavam, o módulo de comando pilotado por Mike Collins assumiu a acoplagem. Só o que Armstrong e Aldrin podiam fazer era esperar. Devagar, Collins aproximou-se do alvo de engate. Quando as duas naves atracaram, pouco restava do foguete Apollo que partira da Terra 1 semana antes. Ele tinha agora 40 avos de sua massa original. Após a conclusão do engate, Armstrong e Aldrin retornaram ao módulo do comando de espera. Cansados, mas exultantes, prepararam-se para a última combustão do motor do foguete necessária para voltar para a Terra.
Once you get docked and the crew's transferred to the command module, that service propulsion system has to work.
No caminho de volta, Collins fez um comentário irônico sobre o motor do foguete que os tirou da órbita lunar.
The SPS engine, our large rocket engine, on the aft end of our service module, must have performed flawlessly or we would have been stranded in lunar orbit.
No caminho para a Terra, Armstrong revelou certas particularidades a Aldrin. Uma delas relacionava-se à bandeira americana que eles fincaram.
And he confidentially shared that it tipped over. And it doesn't look like it completely went over, but the exhaust was sure whipping the flag back and forth tremendously.
Cerca de 60 horas depois, era o momento de dispensar o módulo de serviço. Seu potente motor os tirara da órbita lunar, impedindo que se tornassem, segundo as palavras de um astronauta, um monumento orbital da NASA ao redor da Lua. Eles se aproximavam da Terra a mais de 38.400 km por hora. Qualquer erro de cálculo os faria entrar raso e dissipar ou sair da atmosfera. Eles sabiam que o alinhamento de entrada era crítico. O módulo de comando precisava entrar em um ângulo preciso para iniciar o procedimento de descida. Com o ar ao redor da cápsula ionizado pelo calor excessivamente alto, eles perderiam o contato com o controle da missão.
In the final stage of reentry, it's the crew and the spacecraft. We go through blackout. We've done the best we can for the crew. It's a difficult time. It's a lonely time for the controllers because there's only one thought in every controller's mind. Did I give the crew everything we needed to, and was my data right? There are several times in the mission where the crew's on their own. We've done the best we can, and then it's up to them and the spacecraft to finish off the mission.
À medida que o módulo de comando descia, o calor excessivo na parte posterior da cápsula começou a derreter e queimar a blindagem, como já era previsto no projeto. O material chamado blindagem ablativa era projetado para dissipar e levar calor com ele. E como outra medida contra o calor excessivo de 5.000 graus, o formato da cápsula criava uma onda de choque que também dissipava o calor. No momento em que deixavam a bola de fogo para trás, explosivos no topo da cápsula detonavam pequenos paraquedas freio que pegariam o ar e liberariam os paraquedas principais. Isto reduziria a velocidade de pouso para meros 35 km por hora. Logo, os astronautas foram resgatados por homens-rã e transportados para o helicóptero Hornet. Mas ainda restava uma tarefa mais longa que a própria missão. Nos 21 dias seguintes, eles ficaram praticamente isolados em um trailer especial à prova de germes.
I think the quarantine in our case was not necessary. However, it was a welcome cushioning. It did give us time to reorder our priorities, to prepare for the things that we were going to have to do once we got out.
Well, Neil had a funny statement about that, a good statement about that, which was, you know, the chances of them coming back to Earth with any kind of a moon bug were tiny, 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 tiny. But the ramifications, if they did come back with a moon bug, were enormous. So you have a very, very, very small number times a very, very, very big number, and the result is, yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Milhões de pessoas saíram às ruas para comemorar a volta dos heróis do espaço. Foi um marco do século XX. Em Houston, os geólogos analisavam as pedras, 21 quilos delas. As pedras lunares coletadas pela Apollo 11 tinham uma variedade surpreendente considerando a prévia estada dos coletores. A coleta de pedras de Neil Armstrong é considerada uma das melhores já feitas na Lua por astronautas. Com o passar dos anos, à medida que as lembranças do primeiro pouso na Lua começam a se apagar, restam as imagens espetaculares para recordá-las. As melhores foram captadas pelos próprios astronautas.
Well, I wanted before and an after, so I took a picture of flat surface, then I stuck my foot down and pulled it away, took a picture of that, and that looked so lonesome to me. I put my foot down another time and then moved my foot away slightly so you could see the boot.
Mais 6 missões Apollo foram enviadas à Lua. Devido a um problema na Apollo 13, apenas 5 pousaram. Ao fim do programa, os astronautas tinham um veículo lunar e podiam ficar na Lua durante 3 dias. Uma grande extensão da superfície foi explorada e mais de 400 quilos de pedras foram devolvidos. Mas na época do lançamento da Apollo 17, não havia mais o apoio do público. As Apolos 18, 19 e 20 foram canceladas e 2 foguetes Saturno estão expostos em museus atualmente. Gene Cernan e Harrison Schmitt, os últimos homens na Lua, partiram em 12 de dezembro de 1972. Nunca mais um homem lá retornou.
It's time to take the best minds that we have, not only within NASA, but within the technical community, come up with a proposal, cost this proposal, and then find some way to articulate it to the American people as necessary to survival. Our survival as our species and our survival economically, because the only way we're going to compete in this entire world is through technology.
We need the nation behind us, we need the world behind us, and we need a unified appreciation that this is not going to break the bank, that everything we expend on exploration is going to be returned to us as a nation and us as a world manyfold. The promise of America's space exploration is to move from magnificent desolation to magnificent inspiration.